Hello everyone and welcome to day 18 of the 90-day YouTube sprint on signal analytics, and today we are going to be talking about signal analytics specifically. We're going to be talking about the logistics of signal analytics, so every single step along the way that's necessary to execute on signal analytics, what benefits it's going to get you, what results it's going to end in, and why you would do it in the first place. So let's get into it. I'm Dan Savager, the founder of Merge Your Data. We are a signal analytics firm. We do this for a living, and these videos are what we see and learn about with our prospects and our clients. It's the experiences that we live. And so we help our clients find the data points that indicate that prospects are ready to buy or should be sent away with a downsell or disqualified or whatever it may be, so that your team can be efficient in acquiring revenue. I've been working in data for 12 years, started at the data analyst level, worked my way up to an architect, data architect, and then did consulting, and now we are here with Merge Your Data. And so who is this relevant for? All of our captains on the ship here, company leadership. So if you are going to take on an initiative like signal analytics, it is most likely going to be a decision talked about with the other leaders in the business. Some executives might not be relevant in that conversation. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But ideally, you have a CFO, you have any type of head of marketing, head of sales, head of RevOps, chief revenue officer, whatever it may be. You have those people in the call, chief executive officer, and they are talking about why signal analytics can be used, how it can help the company achieve all of the different goals it has to hit, how it can improve the baseline financials. And so that's why company leadership as a whole needs to be involved here. And so why would you partake? Most revenue teams don't perform as expected because they can't make decisions accurately and effectively. We live in a world full of data. And at the same time, people are really bad at using data effectively. They're either bad at interpreting graphs, they're bad at collecting the data in the first place, they're bad at analyzing the data and making reasonable and accurate conclusions from it, and not jumping to their own conclusions and trying to find the data to just support what they're looking for. And so this isn't an uncommon problem to have. Unfortunately, it is something I see all the time and have seen throughout my career. And then signal analytics shows you exactly what works and what doesn't in both the past, present, and future, so teams perform as expected. And so that's why you would care about the logistics of signal analytics and how from start to finish you can execute it. You can solve that first line there with the second line. And like we've talked about in previous videos, signal analytics can be used to analyze the past, to slice and dice different metrics that you've already experienced, that you've already seen in your company. It can be used to analyze the present in terms of experiments that you're currently conducting and seeing the success rate of those experiments as they come in, or the lack of success. And then in the future as well, you should be able to do some statistical modeling with signal analytics in order to truly project a much tighter confidence interval of values for your revenue that you're expecting over the next year, next quarter, whatever it may be. So we use statistics, predictive analytics to get to that future state. So this is why you would care. And now we get to the fun part of this, which is the actual logistics. And it's long because this takes some steps here. And there's a lot of parts that people don't think about when they're thinking about signal analytics, because in past videos, we've talked about what signals are, how you can break them down. We have our free signal constructor workbook that you can download, link in the description of this video. That's going to help you actually construct those signals and the actions that you need to take based off of certain criteria. So you can come up with a plan, but there's much more to it than that. And so this is the type of stuff that we go through when we're working with clients to make sure that we get them the results that we promise, that we lift revenue, if that's what we are working towards, or if it's turning around a negative trend, a specific negative trend. Maybe there's some falling value in some part of the pipeline, they're converting less and less, and we want to reverse that trend. And so we do that with this entire process here. And so step one is measuring and understanding your fundamental financial metrics. For a lot of the clients that we work with, they're of the size that they already do this. We're talking about very basic things that we talked about in previous videos: your revenue, your net profit, your operating costs, general financial measurements that you should be taking as a business. But we measure and understand your fundamental financial metrics. So this is the first discussion that we have, because this is the whole picture of the business. We need to understand what's going on. And these are the first numbers that we look at. And then we need to set up fundamental data structure in the CRM around the customer journey. And so before we even start talking about step 3, which is bringing in a lot of this financial data into the CRM, I highlight it like this is much better. We have to set up a fundamental structure. And so we work mostly with HubSpot clients. And the number one thing that we see is bad data structure that prohibits good reporting going forward. And so we've come up with the methods to be able to backfill and correct that data. And specifically what I'm talking about is a lot of information, or a lot of companies store data incorrectly with the lifecycle stage and the lead statuses in HubSpot, and now the lead object as well. So a whole new thing. But the lifecycle stages are often used incorrectly. People cycle people back through to old lifecycle stages, when in reality, the lifecycle stage is supposed to be a linear journey and people never go backwards. And if you move them backwards, it ruins tons of reporting. And so this fundamental data structure needs to be set up correctly in order to build all of the signal analytics inside of the CRM in the future. And so you need to have this fundamental data structure correct. There's other parts that go into it as well, but you need to make sure that you have the data structure in place to build off of at a later point, more and more detail to be able to slice and dice your data different ways. 3, that brings us to integrate accurate financial and behavioral data into the CRM. So we're talking about integrating other tools, whatever you use to track those metrics. If you're processing all payments through Stripe, if you're doing your bookkeeping and accounting through Xero or QuickBooks, whatever it may be, we want to put that back into the CRM. We want to make sure everything is accurate and feeding correctly, because otherwise, how are you going to measure signals correctly? How are you going to identify signals if you don't have accurate financial data to tie it back to? You can't find the unit economics behind specific types of activities that you're doing. And then on top of that, behavioral data as well. So if we're collecting data with other systems, if there's other tracking systems like CDPs that have been set up, but data is not being fed back into the CRM for whatever reason, it needs to happen. And so this behavioral data that you collect on people needs to be sent back into the CRM, tied to the contact, to the deals, to the companies, to any custom objects that are relevant, if this is HubSpot that we're still talking about. And so that is step 3. Step 4, we need to define the metrics, dimensions, actions, and criteria for signals. That is the signal constructor workbook that I talk about. You need to go through this process so that you understand what you're going to look for. It doesn't need to be comprehensive. It can be a first best guess at it. And then when we get into the data and you're looking at these things and they don't seem to tell a complete enough story, then you can define more to look at. And so for each industry, the metrics and the dimensions and the combinations of those will look pretty similar across the industry if the businesses are similar in structure, similar in the products and services they sell. And so there are general frameworks that we follow for the specific industry, business size, and strategy. And that's step 4 that you define those at. So you can do that internally with your own team as well. 5, set up tracking for those signals inside your IT infrastructure. So we've partially done this with the financial system and behavioral system integrations into the CRM. Now we're going back and making sure that all the other infrastructure is set in place. And so if we're using any type of signal tracking platform, because there are ones that exist out there in the wild, they can be combined with HubSpot. You send that data back to HubSpot, make sure it's in all the right places. Ad platform, same thing. If you're just tracking through ad platforms and conversions through there, then we need to send that data back accurately to the CRM. If there's offline events, whether it's going to be imports that you update the data with, or it's going to be something else, some other type of tool, we need to send that back to the CRM. And you get the picture here. We just look for all of the data sources that could provide signals, plug it back into the CRM. 6, choose any additional third-party tools to aid in your signal data. We've talked in previous videos about first, second, and third-party signal data providers. If you have third-party providers that would be useful, you add them in here. So when we're working with clients sometimes the standard stuff that we can capture without going too deep into a setup is limited, and they want to go further than that. And so there are tons of third-party tools that you can find that will add additional data to your CRM. Some are good, some are bad. You can do some research on them. We'll probably have a video here in the future comparing some of those third-party signal platforms. Let's move on to the next point. Number 7, analyze which signals are positive and negative. So now we're getting into the data analysis portion of it. The other part was a lot of strategic planning, a lot of data engineering work, a lot of development work for integrations, and now we're into the analysis portion of it. And so we're talking about all these things in the past videos, the top 3 positive, top 3 negative signals at specific conversion points along the customer journey. We want to see which 3 are indicating that this person is going to be a good fit and we should be very relevant and very efficient in following up with them, and which 3 signals are showing that they are a bad fit and we shouldn't waste time trying to manually try to put manpower on following up with those leads, and instead maybe we put them in an automatic downsell or some type of disqualification email sequence that just basically says, maybe we're not a good fit right now. Here's some other offerings we have. We're very sorry, whatever your language wants to be. Number 8, analyze highest ROI signals and lowest ROI signals. We talked about this a little bit in step 7. So this is analyzing all signals that are positive and negative. And so I mixed these together a little bit. And this was the top 3 positive, top 3 negative that I mentioned here. So that's step 8. Step 9, we're optimizing each stage of the funnel based on the signal data. Talked about this in, I think, our last video. In our last video. And so we're going to look at each stage in the funnel. We recommend starting furthest down the funnel to expose potential issues with messaging or with our sales team or other fundamental problems before we start pushing more and more opportunities for our sales team. That's our preferred approach. Some people prefer to start at the top and use volume to hash out those problems. But we think that usually teams are investing more money in headcount on the sales side of things. And so instead, it's good to reduce the number of sales people if needed, get them conversations, or try to focus on getting them to convert in those conversations, and then really digging deep into what's happening on those calls and why they are converting, why they're not converting. And so we follow this process and then we work our way up the funnel. Each stage, we're going to try to improve the conversion rate for each stage based off of the signal data that we see. 10, automate. I can't even talk right now. Automate the most impactful signals to feed back into the CRM at the correct time. We've identified top and bottom. We've been optimizing for each stage of the funnel. And so now we also want to work on automating those signals back into the CRM. So before, maybe we're just feeding a very manual analysis to the sales team, to the marketing team, and then trying to optimize the stages based off of that. But this time we're actually going to send notifications, tasks, emails, whatever it may be, to the sales team saying that these signals are occurring, saying that you need to call this prospect now, working on reducing our contact time when people are actually providing the signals showing that they're interested. 11, modify the behaviors and strategy of the marketing and sales teams to follow the signals. So now that we've done all this work on these other steps, now we get into the hard part of getting people to care about these signals, showing them the positive benefits of using them and how they can get better at their job, hit their targets, earn more, whatever it may be. And we try to help them modify their day-to-day behaviors and processes to start using these signals and performing at a high level. And then after that, we're going to measure the incremental increases in productivity along the pipeline. So as people are trying to do number 11, we want to make sure that it's working, that things are actually changing. And so we're keeping track of those signals. We are keeping track of the high-level metrics of revenue, of closed deals, of general productivity and efficiency. And we're making sure that we're seeing improvements over the quarters. And so depending on your sales cycle length, this is going to look different. It might take 6 months to start seeing incremental increases. It might take a shorter period of time if you have a short sales cycle. A lot of B2B sales cycles from first contact point, so first time the lead actually submits their own info, not when you pull it into the system, but when they submit their own info, to actually closing a deal will be months and months in length. It increases in length with the increase in deal size and size of the organization that you are selling to. And so we measure these incremental increases with that sales cycle length in mind. So you need to know your sales cycle length. And then last but not least, you're constantly revisiting and strategizing with the signals based on changing conditions. It is easy to fall asleep on this one. It's easy to get lulled into the same exact analysis time and time again, the same signals, and not really recognize any opportunities for improvement. This is where our phase 4 comes in, where we're working with clients month after month, keeping track of these changes, seeing what's going on, being that third party that lets our clients know what's going on in the economic environment, in their industry, because sometimes it's not within your control. Sometimes you're just seeing longer sales cycle across the industry and there's not too much you can do to change that at the time. But this is the type of stage that's really important to continuously grow and get better. You'll get big wins through these other stages. You should. You should, from setting up your first signals analysis and looking at the data, be able to see some really big opportunities for wins, because we talk about the Pareto principle, 20% of effort leading to 80% of results, and looking for those leverage points to make those small changes that lead to the big results. So you should see that in the short term, but then over the long term, you're going to have to keep making those discoveries, because that Pareto principle is going to change in terms of the actual levers that you need to pull. And so you need to constantly revisit these signals. Data is always changing. The economic environment's always changing. Your industry is always changing. And so this needs to be on your radar. You can also just get lazy with it, and then when you have a problem again and you're not profitable anymore, then you can come back and do it all again. But I think it's easier just to maintain it. And so this might be you right now. This is a lot. It really is. And this is exactly why we have a business, to be honest, because we do all of these things. Like, this is the process that we go through with our clients to see that lift in revenue, to turn around negative trends, and to get them the results that they're looking for, hitting targets with their revenue teams, optimizing their conversion rates throughout the funnel so they're not wasting a bunch of money on leads. And so the obvious thing is you can tackle this yourself. Make mistakes along the way, learn from that. That's how we did it, that's how we learn as well. But then at the same time, you could just hire us or another signal analytics firm. I don't know if there are any, to be honest, that go through this level of detail. But you could hire us, and then we go through all of these steps here so that you don't have to do it. You just get the results. So just keep that in mind. It's a lot to go through. It's a lot to invest in. If you're going to invest in these steps for your own company, make sure to get data engineers, data analysts, marketing ops, sales ops, strategists, all involved and on board if they aren't yet. So you can assemble that team and do it yourself. You can do all the research around the tools in the industry and make your best guess. You can work with an external party like us who provide all these things and just outline it for you. I don't think you've seen this outline anywhere else, because I haven't seen it anywhere else, and I work in this every day. I could be missing it, but this is all the steps that's involved in signal analytics, and so you just take the shortcut too. So this will get you these 3 things: more clients with less effort. Enjoy these crappy pictures that I found on the internet. More clients with less effort. Realistic and attainable revenue goals, and systemized approach to improving marketing and sales. And so I'm going to escape out of there because I don't like that highlight feature anymore. More clients with less effort. As we're optimizing stage by stage, you don't have to do more to get more. You should be able to increase your effort and increase the amount of revenue and close won deals in a very scaled and consistent effort, or in consistent growth pattern. But for most people, they're doing more and more, and they're not getting more clients. It's actually getting worse. And so this will help you identify. Signal analytics will help you identify how you can be efficient. And we've done this with the client in one of our previous videos, Dineline. They didn't have to expand their sales team by 4x to get that 4x revenue over 2 years. Just they didn't have to do it because they are efficient with their activities along the pipeline. They know their data. Realistic and attainable revenue goals. Nothing is worse than leaders coming in and setting this high goal that's not able to be attained, or worse, you're trying to set a goal and you're doing your calculations best you can and you're not really sure, and so you just kind of set a lofty goal so people are happy that you're aiming for the stars, and in reality that's just going to come back to bite you, and so you want to be able to predict this accurately. And then systemized approach to improving marketing and sales. It's a nice little AI generated image. There's a team here systematically figuring out marketing and sales, or using their signal data to see how they can improve small portions of their customer lifecycle and their deal funnel, and how that's going to lead to more revenue without having to do more. And so that's pretty much it for this one. This went way further than I thought, or way longer than I thought. Take one action, like, comment, share in a company chat, subscribe with the link in the description of the video if you want the Signal Constructor workbook for free. Provide exactly how you can build out specific signals and the actions and the criteria for your team to act on. And then I always forget to update this slide. We're not doing more big pains as a sale leader. We already did that one. But we'll come back with a fresh new video tomorrow. Thanks for watching. I'm Dan Savager from Merger Data. If you have this idea of signal analytics in your head and you really want to execute on it, reach out to our team. This execution, this guidance to get through those 13 steps and grow your revenue in an efficient manner without you having to dump a bunch more money into internal resources. Thanks for watching.